If you're trying to practice at home and you're worried about disturbing your friends or your family or your neighbors next door, then this video might really help you, because today I'm testing out one of these. It's a SaxMute One, and I want to find out if these things actually work and how much quieter it's going to make my tenor sax when I'm practicing. So we want to find out whether this is something that's actually a good alternative if you want to practice quieter. So stick around, it's going to be good fun. Hey, if you enjoy videos like this where I'm testing out gear, then consider subscribing and give us a thumbs up, and also share the video, because that would really help me, and also you'd get to find out about future videos that I'm making. I'm making videos like this all the time. Okay, let's get stuck in. G'day, it's Nigel here from Sax School. Hey, thanks for joining me for another one of these videos. Now, maybe your life has been a little bit like mine this year, because I have to say it's been pretty tough this year with all the crazy pandemic stuff going on and lockdown happening quite a lot in the UK here. My house has been full of people because my studio here is in my house. So it's been tough to juggle time for practicing and filming and recording when I've got everybody else, all the rest of my family, in the house too. So it's been a struggle for me, but you know what? For our thousands of Sax School members, I know it's been tough too, because a lot of them live in apartments or have got young families or live in houses with lots of other people. And it's something I hear a lot from members, that they're struggling to practice quietly. Maybe you have the same problem. So that's why I'm excited about today's video. I'm checking out this. It's a SaxMute One. I've bought it from sax.co.uk. Those guys are awesome, and they were telling me that this is a super popular model. So it's not the most expensive SaxMute on the market, but you know, I'm curious to see how it actually works. And just to give us some comparison, I'm also going to test out one of these. Now this is a super cheap El Cheapo, the cheapest thing you can possibly get off Amazon, to see how this compares to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test both of these mutes up against each other. I'm going to play with and without the mute, and I'm going to use a decibel meter on my iPhone so we can see how much it actually muffles the sound. And then at the end of the video, I'll be making a comparison and seeing which of these is actually a viable option. Okay, so let's start off with this super cheap mute off Amazon. Now I paid £7 for this, and strangely enough on Amazon they seem to vary in price from about £7 up to about £15. Who knows why? Because they all look identical. So the idea with this is it basically goes in the bell of your saxophone like this. So kind of looks weird, makes it look like a bit of a jet, but the idea is it's going to mute the sound. Okay, so there's not much to it. It's a little piece of aluminium with a piece of cork around the outside here. And they come in different sizes, so this is a tenor for my tenor, but you can buy an alto version as well. So let's give it a whirl and see if it actually works. Right, so here's the plan. I've got a decibel meter on my iPhone, and my room's pretty quiet here actually. It's about 29 decibels with nothing going, which is pretty quiet. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's up to about 100 decibels. Let's pop in the mute and see if it makes any difference. Okay, so it's definitely quieter. With the mute in, it's a few decibels lower. It didn't peak quite as high as without this, but it wasn't a big difference on the meter. And actually, in the room, it did sound a bit more muffled, but the big downside for me was that with this thing, everything's out of tune. All the low notes are out of tune, and the low notes, they just do not come out at all. Because it's covering off the end of your bell, as soon as you get down to low C, D, C, and below, it's rubbish. Basically, all those low notes are a non-event. Okay, let's try the SaxMute One. Okay, so the SaxMute One is a big, cumbersome piece of kit. My kids tell me it looks like a human torso, and it kind of does. It's pretty big, and actually, if you're in a room that's a bit tight for space, then this would be a big thing to be stored. But anyway, it's made of, I guess, molded plastic. You've got a couple of armholes here and a little attachment at the top that lets it come apart. Now in the UK, the SaxMute One, there we go, is about £350. In the US, I think it's about $400. So it's not cheap. It's quite an expensive piece of kit. Inside, we've got acoustic foam on both the front and the back. And you've got a little hook in here where you attach your saxophone. And then on the back, we've got some really simple shoulder straps. You can also mount it or attach it to a tall Hercules stand, and I'll show you that in a second. But I'm going to try you doing it with the shoulder straps to start off with. So the tricky part is getting it all put together. Your saxophone goes in here like this, and you've got to kind of get the, see if I can work this out. You've got to get the hook on the back of the saxophone. Okay, so it's hooked on. Feels a bit weird, but I guess that's about right. So then the other half goes on the fronts, and then we've got that little string at the top to hold it together. There we go. Now thankfully you've got some handles on the front and the back, which makes it easier to grasp. And because it's got a flat base, it does actually stand up by itself. It feels a bit weird keeping a saxophone in there, but anyway. So let's get the shoulder straps on and try this out. Feels a bit like you're hugging a great big balloon or something. Okay. Well, this does feel weird. Okay, some shoulder straps are on. I've got my hand holes and they're ready to go. So I've got my decibel meter. Let's see what the reading is with the SaxMute One. Okay, so it's quite a lot quieter. Now on the decibel meter, it's reading more around the sort of 75 to 80 mark. And in the room here, it feels a lot quieter. In fact, if I was playing quieter, I could still get a really good sound out of the saxophone, but be barely audible outside the room, I think. The other good thing about this is, I know some of the other reviews have talked about the low notes not sounding very well, but actually with this design, it's not so bad. So right down low B flat, yeah, it sounds a little bit muffled, but unlike the super cheap Mute, I can actually get the low notes out. Even if you give it some welly, we're still not getting above about 83 decibels, so pretty cool. Okay, let's look at how we can mount this on a saxophone stand. Okay, so according to the instructions, you can attach this to a tall Hercules stand. Now, I love these tall Hercules stands. In fact, you can watch the video where I unboxed these. These are fantastic, my favorite stands. But you do have to buy these separately if you choose to use your SaxMute One on a stand. Now, for some people, that's really going to suit them because it means you don't have to use a neck strap at all. You don't have to worry about the extra weight of the SaxMute One. But let's just see how it attaches. So inside here, this is the front part. There's a little metal bracket in here. And this actually attaches over the top of the stand like this. Okay, a little bit tricky, but I get the idea. So there you go, it's attached to my stand. So now I can pop the saxophone in there. Okay, so for me, that's really not working. I struggle to get my saxophone actually onto the stand. And then if I do manage to get it on, which makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable if I'm honest with you, then the front is pushing really hard against the tubing of my sax. Okay, so I've discovered that the attachment in here is adjustable. Let's see if that helps. Okay, so adjusting the bracket inside the case seems to have helped, but it's still affecting my high F sharp key here. Anyway, let's put it together and see how it works. So, get the front on, and then my string attachment. Okay, so we're all together. It's on the stand. Look, no neck strap or anything. It's all still up by itself. Could I play like this? Okay, so I think it would take a bit of getting used to find a position that felt comfortable with the saxophone on a stand like this. Having an adjustable seat really helps. So what about you? Do you use a SaxMute? Have you tried the SaxMute One, or do you use one of the other products? Or maybe you've experimented with one of these. Let me know in a comment, I'd love to know. So there you go, Saxophone Mutes. What's my final verdict? Well, personally, I think these things are a complete waste of time. I wouldn't bother spending your £7, let alone your £15 on one of these, because they just make playing very frustrating and they make a negligible difference to the actual volume coming out of the end of the saxophone. I think this will be more useful as a plant pot or something. Would I buy this again, or am I glad that I spent the 350 quid on one of these? You know, I think I am actually. This is pretty cool. It's going to be big and cumbersome to have in my room here, but it means that I could play quietly and not disturb anybody outside of my room, which I think is pretty cool. Realistically, I'm not going to be giving it loads of welly with this thing on. It's more about using it as a tool to be able to practice quietly, work on my embouchure, work on my fingers, and play on those days when my house is full of people and I have to worry about disturbing people. If you lived in an apartment, I reckon this would be awesome actually, because it would mean that you could play a lot more without fear of disturbing your neighbors. So I actually think this is great value for money. Now I know there's the E-Sax Whisper, or the Whisper Sax, that's a bit more money than this. In fact, a couple £100 more, and it's got some electronic gadgetry on it. I haven't tried that, but to be honest with you, I don't think I'll be looking to use this as a recording tool anyway. For me, really, this is actually better value for money because it gives you a chance to just focus on the important stuff, which is tone building, technique practice, and being able to play on those days when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So I hope that's been useful to you. I definitely recommend you checking out one of these. And I got mine from sax.co. There's a link down below if you want to go check those guys out. They're fantastic. But let me know in a comment if you found that helpful, or if you've tried one of these as well, or if you've got a different suggestion that I could check out. And as always, if you want to find out more about Sax School, about what I'm up to with my thousands of students, then go check us out at mcgillmusic.com. As I'm filming this, we've got a 14-day trial, so you can actually go in for no cost and have a dig around, try out all of our lessons and courses and see if they suit you, just like they suit thousands of other members from all around the world. I think it's amazing, and I'd love to see you in there too. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and I'll catch you next time.